Use your powers for evil,
Your evil is mine.
Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm your host, Charles Skaggs, and with me, as always, is my partner in crime and my partner in time, because I know he likes me to say that.
I do.
Jesse Jackson.
Hey, Charles. It is Jesse Jackson, and it is. First off, I just got to say, a great, another winner. You've picked us. This has been so much fun. I'm looking forward to this. And Charles and I got to just spend a few minutes talking about iZombie.
Right.
And you can hear his thoughts even more on the Fandom Zone.
Right. The Phantom Zone podcast will be talking about. Actually, we're recording Phantom Zone tomorrow.
Okay.
So it'll be coming shortly.
Good.
Our thoughts on the iZombie season finale. If you dug it, if you watched it, you probably enjoyed it because it was a great finale. Spoilers, I enjoyed it more than the Walking Dead season 6 finale. So
yeah, I
think it was more satisfying than the Walking Dead season 6 finale.
In a lot of ways, and then we'll get on to Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
They have found a really nice niche of this zombie world.
Right.
They've added enough humor, but it's also a little bit. There is that, tension. It's a procedural, but it's not a procedural. I mean, it just is really just well done. And as I've been on the record, I love Rob Thomas, from Veronica Mars and Cupid and some other stuff he's done. So I really like what they're doing with this.
Yeah, well, now you have to be specific about which Rob Thomas, because there were two. There's the producer of the iZombie show, and then there's the Rob Thomas, the singer of Matchbox 20.
Right.
Who appeared in the season finale and was killed off in the season finale. But not in real life. He's okay.
If you have been a fan of the writer showrunner Rob Thomas, you know that he makes a lot of jokes about, no, I'm not that Rob Thomas, because both of them having famous names. So to have the real musician Rob Thomas appear was genius.
The meta in that was so strong, but but if you want to talk more about it, we can check out the Phantom Zone podcast because we'll get into it. But
absolutely,
this is the Doctor Who podcast.
Yes, it is.
We don't want to go too much on iZombie.
No. So Charles, you were kind enough to virtually hold my hand. The BBC, sometimes fans make fake trailers that are so good that you actually think, if you aren't paying attention, you think it's a real trailer.
Right.
And I'm especially guilty of doing that. And Charles always is able to say, yes, it's good, but this is fan made, Jesse. But the plug about a new companion that came out just recently just left me. I mean, I was just sniffing and sniffing. So many good goodbyes. So much. It was such a beautiful love letter to the show.
Now you're talking about the new goodbye to companions. Yes. It's like a YouTube video. Now, did you post that on our Next Stop Everywhere Facebook page?
I believe I did.
Okay, so you can check it out there. What we're talking about.
But did you? This must have made you smile as a classic Who fan, right?
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, are you?
Fair warning. I've been really busy this weekend. I haven't had a chance to get to it.
I understand that.
I will get to it. So yeah, especially if it's on our Facebook page. So
okay, all right, good.
And you guys are liking us on Facebook, right? Okay,
I certainly hope so.
Just checking.
Yeah,
it's pop quiz. So yeah,
right. Okay, so
this week,
yes, go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, this week we're going to talk about the Heart of the Battle, and this is our third and final, for now at least, installment of our War Doctor trilogy from Big Finish Audio, Big Finish Productions, excuse me, where we have the audio adventure set, Only the Monstrous, which is the first War Doctor set. There are going to be more. The second one, Infernal Devices, should be hopefully soon coming out. So if you enjoyed Only the Monstrous, and a side note, if you're not sure what we're talking about, you can go to bigfinish.com and you can download the episode there, or you can go to some place like either Amazon or Who North America, which is WHONA.com, and you can get the first War Doctor set there. So then you can stop us for right now, go listen to that, now come back. Now, wasn't that a great episode? Okay, so now that we through the magic of timey-wimey, we can just go ahead and do that. But so yeah, this is the third part of the trilogy, this Keska trilogy, I guess, or at least this first introductory chapter, which I'm guessing is going to be a little bit. I mean, I don't think this is the last we've seen of Ollistra.
No, I don't think so either.
The Cardinal Ollistra, who's head of, I guess, overseeing this phase of the Time War. And so we'll see more of her, I'm sure, and her little Machiavellian manipulations going on.
Yeah.
But for right now, so yeah, this is, we talked about that. This is the conclusion of the trilogy, and I'm kind of curious, just as a general overview, now that you've listened to the conclusion, how do you take the trilogy as a whole?
I really like it a lot, Charles. And I'm kind of lucky. The old thing, we watch everything so you don't have to.
Right.
Charles goes through a lot of Doctor Who material so that I don't have to.
It's my religion. I'm a Whovian.
Yes. You do a wonderful job of picking the very best for me and sharing. And this was just such a great Big Finish audio story. We did the first. We were only going to do the first third. For those of you who haven't listened to the other episodes, and if you haven't, why haven't you?
Yeah, really.
You're coming into the middle of a story.
But this is episode 57.
Yes.
So back in episode 55 is when we did our first.
And
chapter.
The plan was we were just going to do this because it really was kind of a kind of standalone, almost prologue to the series.
Right.
And I loved it so much. I said, well, I want to know the other two. And so the other two have been more of a true two-parter.
Right.
So I loved it a lot. And I am just so impressed and how well they have taken the few facts we know about the War Doctor, and blended this whole, basically a 3-hour story. Give or take a few minutes, right?
To be fair, they do have the entire previous Doctor Who series to kind of draw ideas and concepts.
Yes, but we know very little about the War Doctor.
Right.
Just we've got
he's a blank slate.
Yes,
which is a good thing because then we get to explore this character.
But they have taken the all the modern Doctors. And the kind of implications they've spent, and the on this the great Time War and all this different things, and the War Doctor, and built an absolutely amazing story that feels like this was written like almost before this other stuff was filmed.
Okay.
I just really was happy with it.
So you almost feel like it was either like something that was created for the TV series but never aired, perhaps. Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I realize that in a little way, if you already know how things are going to end and you're writing backwards, it can be a little bit easier. But they do it so seamlessly and so well. Nicholas Briggs. Top of hat to him.
Yeah, he wrote and directed this episode as he did the other first two parts.
And John Hurt just
blows it away, doesn't he?
He just really does. And I'm almost
he elevates the material, which is a sign of a great actor.
Yeah, and and it's almost I hate to be selfish and greedy, but you go, "Oh, I wish we had him instead of, I'm going to focus on being grateful that we've got these Big Finish stories.
Right.
But you're like, gosh, wouldn't you love to see a TV movie with him as the War Doctor?
Absolutely.
But that's so much more time and energy, and I'm so lucky.
I would be happy with like a mini episode at least, like the
Yes.
like the Eighth Doctor got in the Night of the Doctor.
Yeah.
I would be so happy with that. Just to have
Yeah.
a little mini episode with the War Doctor would be fabulous.
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to see more of him on screen. It's great to have
Yes.
the Big Finish audios. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I'm not ungrateful for those.
Right.
Far from it. But obviously, you'd love to see him on TV again.
Yeah, this was just awesome.
Especially
Yeah.
give him a chance to interact with the 12th Doctor would be fantastic.
Oh, yes, it really would.
To see Hurt and Capaldi
Yeah.
playing off each other, that would be that would be a great little bit of Doctor Who blending of eras there. It'd be great.
By the way, thank you for posting the photo of Tennant
Yes, yeah,
cosplaying.
yeah. Apparently, Tennant and Matt Smith, I guess, were at Wizard World, New York this weekend, and I guess they did a panel together, which must have been like Tennant and Smith in the same panel, which have been hilarious.
They were doing photos together,
right?
Which, which was awesome.
Yeah, so they did the photo ops, and I guess there's a photo of Tennant wearing the 12th Doctor's red velvet jacket. And he's got the shades on, the sonic shades, and he's doing the kind of Doctor Strange-ish hand gesture that Capaldi does in his like earliest promo photos.
Right.
I think it was like the first real promo photo we got of him in costume, where he's got his hand extended outward and looking all cool and everything. But yeah, it's great. It's just it's terrific to see 10 as 12 as I hashtagged it.
Yes.
And it was just a lot of fun, and I love seeing stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Too bad Matt Smith didn't join in, because that would have been great to see.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of curious to see him with that on.
Yeah.
But so the heart of the battle, we kind of wrap things up, and so let's get into this a little bit. As we said, this is written directed by Nicholas Briggs, and we're left off with I guess Seratrix, the Doctor, and the older Rejoice being confronted by Tronus. That's kind of where we were left off. So let's first get into first thing I want to talk about is Seratrix, the Time Lord that wants to make peace with the Daleks, and he's all about this initiative, and apparently he has a little group behind him. What he calls his brothers and sisters. So one of the things I want to talk about was, and I refer to this in our little agenda as his monstrous moral hypocrisy. And by that I mean there's a scene in this episode where Seratrix, he's willing to take the life of Rejoice to keep his dream of peace with the Daleks alive. And the Doctor kind of calls him out on that. So that it's a great little perfect world of peace, except the fact that you want to kill poor Rejoice here, to get what you want. So I was kind of curious to to get your thoughts on this, Jesse. Do you see that the kind of little bit of logic flaw inherent in Seratrix's ideology and wanting peace but willing to kill for it?
This is sometimes Big Finish audios, the few I've listened to,
right,
are pretty not very deep. They're more of a character study,
right,
or it's a pretty simple, adventure. This had a lot of depth to it, and I think about this a lot, Charles. Is where is the line?
Right.
Where is the line between you hear a lot about, he didn't give up his dream. And look, after 15 years, he got his novel published, or he became a star, or he successfully patented his invention. And then you go, but what about that 15 years? What if he had never happened?
Yeah.
Or she had never happened? When do you become being dedicated to obsessive to a little pathetic. And
Wait a
and
minute, you're just talking about my writing career or would be writing
no,
career.
I'm not.
So are you calling me pathetic?
No.
All right.
Um, the I what I'm talking about are people that are almost they are not doing anything else. They're just focused on, I know this business can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, and you wonder, okay, when do you give up this dream and
Right.
move on to a different dream? And
Or what
I
are you
think
willing to sacrifice to get your dream?
right.
Yeah.
And is it worth the price? And just
Because
saw Ricky in the Flash with the Meryl Streep and that whole
Flash. Oh,
character.
no.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Um,
I got excited. I
no,
thought we were watching
yes.
the
Yeah, whoa.
Grant Gustin there for a minute. Oh,
Yeah, you're like,
oh.
I am so disappointed in this movie. They didn't
Sucks.
show the Flash at all.
We didn't even
That
get
would have been
John
funny.
Wesley Shipp. What's up with this?
Yeah. And so here is this Time Lord
Mm-hmm.
that is convinced that we can have peace in our time,
Okay.
that we can somehow stop this war from continuing,
Mm-hmm.
and save millions of people's lives. And yes, he is willing to sacrifice a few to make the longer service.
Well, few in comparison because he's sacrificing 1,000 worlds to the Daleks.
And they talk about this in the actual episode, that how sad is it that the one person that was going for peace actually ended up being wrong.
Right.
I
see what you're saying. Yes.
And so I just find this a really interesting story because in a different tale, he would be the hero.
Right.
Because he had a vision of how we can, live together and sing Kumbaya, but you can't with the Daleks. But if you hadn't tried, right, it's a complex story, and I feel like I'm doing a bad job describing it, but
no, you're doing fine.
Yeah, I just love that.
It's that kind of thing, like they're depending on your perspective of things.
Right.
Where for like a long time you've had over the millennia, really, you've had various groups that maybe some would view as terrorists or terrorist acts of violence to further their agendas, their political agendas, or their own ideology.
Yes.
Now they don't see themselves as the villains.
No.
But from the whatever it's just whatever group is there fighting against them, they see them as the villains, but they don't see themselves as the villains. They see themselves as the heroes.
Yes.
And I think Seratrix sees himself as a hero, while the Doctor, who's much more of an objective outsider, stepping into this, going, "Wait a minute here, Sparky. You're not as heroic as you think you are.
I think you're right, Charles, and
you're not the martyr, or you're not the idealist that you need to be here."
I mean, because you throw in the 12th Doctor when we had the Zygon invasion, and him pushing for them to make peace with each other.
Right.
When he had just not only in the anniversary special, but the actual episode this season, where because it was successful and we had that great speech by the Doctor, he's turned it as a hero. But what if it hadn't worked? Then he would have been Chamberlain for the British Empire, right? That had the agreement with Hitler that later, didn't work at all. So I just find that kind of storytelling very interesting and well done. And I can't think of this Time Lord Seratrix as a villain. I just think he is a misguided innocent.
Right. But he's also a dangerous,
absolutely
misguided innocent because he's willing to sacrifice so many lives.
Yes.
So again, I see that there's this inherent hypocrisy in his thinking.
Yes.
Wanting peace, but only after such horrific acts.
Yes.
Of death and destruction.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, I kind of wanted to get.
Yeah, and let's go back to Torchwood Children of Earth, right?
Right. That's
Where
a great example.
because Captain Jack, right, made that sacrifice whenever the aliens came beforehand
The first
because
time, yeah.
they taste good, or something along that
Yeah,
line.
right.
And he saved all of those. He saved Earth's children by sacrificing those few. Which, by the way, if you guys have not seen Children of Earth, I think it is.
It's the best Torchwood story that was ever done, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Peter Capaldi's on that same story.
Yes.
Peter Capaldi's character, he's willing to sacrifice people on Earth, the kids of Earth, for that little bit of cooperation. I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but that the alliance he has with those aliens.
Yeah, and
he's kind of pressed in a little bit of a moral dilemma, and it kind of weighs on him.
Yes.
As a result, he doesn't take it lightly.
No, he ends up making a very hard decision that if you have not seen it, we will not spoil this, but
right.
And it really does talk about I just recently had a bunch of people on talking about Bruce Springsteen. Take a drink.
Surprise.
Decision not to play North Carolina.
Whoa, Jesse, you're sinking.
Yes. And the question was, my camera just fell.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I just descending lower. There he goes.
And the question was, well, if North Carolina was the only show I was going to see him in, would I be as supportive of his decision?
Right.
And I said, I hope I would, but most people are, yes, I want to help the environment, but I want to drive my own car. Yes, I think our country should fight against tyranny, but I don't want my child to go to war.
Right.
And so this Children of Earth touches on that. And so I think there is that moral story in this, in this Monstrous as well. Like, are we willing to make the sacrifices to get us peace?
Right.
So,
and
great story.
And it's not like Seratrix is giving those 1,000 worlds the choice.
Yes.
To sacrifice themselves.
Right.
He's just arbitrarily deciding, okay, that sounds good. You take those 1,000 worlds, get your little null zone or whatever, and leave the rest of us alone, okay? And we're cool, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of, we'll give you everything behind the Iron Curtain. And Russia, you take all of that. As long as you leave the rest of us alone, you're okay. So, yeah, really very timely and very realistic story, Charles, at least from my perspective.
Right. But then what happens to Seratrix, though? He ends up getting killed by the Prime Dalek.
Yes.
Exterminated.
Yes, he did.
So he got what was his.
Right.
I think. But, yeah. Okay, let's move on. Now let's move on to our next topic, the War Doctor's monstrous moral dilemma.
Okay.
And by this, I'm talking about the scene later in the episode where the War Doctor is faced with there is this this capsule that's heading into Casca's core, and once it detonates, that will it's going to take away the magnetic core and ravage the world and kill everybody, but so that the Daleks can use it and kind of pilot it around as part of their plan, and they're going to eventually send it toward Gallifrey, that we find out later. But the Doctor has this choice about blowing up the capsule, and unfortunately it's got a self-destruct, but unfortunately it can only be manned at the control center where the War Doctor is with Rejoice. And so Garv, the scientist guy that's kind of stuck inside the capsule with a bunch of other scientists, he tells the Doctor that he can't destroy it himself. Someone at the control center has to do it. So the Doctor's kind of faced with, oh, guess what? I have another button where I get to kill people. But, he hasn't had that experience yet with the moment, because this is set before that. But again, you've got the War Doctor whether he realizes it or not, he's got another button to push that could kill people.
Yes.
And the question is, well, doing so for the greater good. And there's a kind of a scene there. So he has that dilemma. And then you've got Rejoice, who's willing to take that responsibility away from him because she cares about the War Doctor so much still
Yes.
that she's like, look, it's my planet. I'll go ahead and do it. But then the War Doctor says, nope, I'm the one who needs to do it. He talks about, like, he's the monster. Right now, this situation needs a monster. And guess what? I told you, Rejoice, I was the monster. Didn't I say that? So then he pushes the button and sends the signal and destroys the capsule before it could completely devastate the planet.
And
so I guess my question to you is, okay, did the War Doctor make the right call?
I was thinking about this because Elliot S. Magan, the classic Superman writer,
right,
and I met him at a convention a month or so ago, and he said that a good Superman story is that Superman always finds the right thing to do, makes the right decision, the moral decision. And the tougher it is for him to make that decision, the better a story. Good friend of mine from the Farscape podcast has often said that he doesn't like the Doctor. He doesn't like Doctor Who because it seems like he's a little too callous on death. And I don't necessarily agree with him, but there is a little bit of that. I thought of, him when the Doctor pushes the button.
Right.
And then they say, he's kind of, well, we're going to have earthquakes.
Right.
There's going to be thousands dead, but it won't destroy your planet totally. But you are going to have massive death, massive destruction, and your planet now has a chance to survive, which before it didn't have anything at all.
Right. I think he was weighing the numbers in his head.
Yes.
He's like, okay, so we could either have X amount of people killed, or we could have X plus amount of people killed.
Right.
And he opted for the X, the smaller number.
And that is a consistent trait of the Doctor on almost every version I've been lucky enough to watch, is that he can make that tough decision.
Right.
But it is a tough decision.
So do you think it should have tried to find another way?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know if he had time. I don't know if he could have found another way.
Right.
But and I don't agree with Lou's assessment that is the reason he doesn't enjoy the show.
Right.
But I think it's a valid point about the Doctor is not afraid of getting his hands dirty when he needs to. I think it's a final choice.
Right.
But I do believe that the War Doctor is bred to be a warrior, to calculate quickly the odds, and to make these tough decisions.
Right.
And, which goes back to the great writing when Paul McGann's Doctor makes that choice. I need to be a warrior.
Right.
And you talk about how good he is at doing this.
Yeah, I can't do right now. The person I am now is not what the person you need for this war.
Yes.
So I have to become something different.
Yes.
And so there's that choice. The downside is that because of these decisions, the Doctor eventually resents himself and resents this incarnation.
Yes.
That he was willing to make these brutal decisions. So it's almost like just that there's that kind of self-loathing.
And this is why, Charles, and I'm going to beat this dead horse again, but that is why this feels like it was written before, because Eccleston, Tennant, Smith, and Capaldi have all played the Doctor with a burden of all the people they haven't been able to save, and all the people because of their actions that have lost their lives. And I don't know, you're going to have to tell me.
Hmm.
Do you feel like that was played in the classic era as much?
I think that in the later Sylvester McCoy
Yeah.
stories, it was. I know that the Fifth Doctor, um, the Fifth Doctor saw him, Peter Davison's Doctor, saw himself as kind of a, uh, like almost like a martyr, I guess. He was like a very self-sacrificing, which shows in the kind of way that he dies, saving Perry. He gives up his own life to save Perry. It's very much his doctor. But that so when there's he used to get so outraged by, like, say, Dalek massacres, or whatever group was inflicting casualties on some other group, that bothered him.
Yeah.
So it does weigh on him, and it
Okay.
kind of and it did kind of come across the Colin Baker's Doctor kind of got a little outraged about that. So I think it's kind of like almost like the '80s Doctors onward
Okay.
had
Do,
that kind of social, or not, just that kind of outrage over injustice.
do you agree with me that it seems to be more of the persona in the modern era?
Yes, I do. I think the modern era kind of took what was in the '80s and just built upon that. Especially when, like, when Russell T Davies created the Time War concept, that gave the Doctor such a burden because it was designed to make him mysterious. But we find out gradually here and there, we kind of piece everything together enough, and then finally kind of get everything laid out for us in the Day of the Doctor,
Yes.
as by Stephen Moffat, that yes, there was this burden, and there was a secret burden, and there was a secret doctor we didn't know about, and who lived this life and did all these things that the quote unquote other doctors, the normal doctors, wouldn't do, which is why
Yeah.
he kind of shoved that one persona into some deep dark recess of his mind, and is like, look, I'm not acknowledging that guy exists anymore.
Absolutely.
I can't deal with him.
And they continue to really, really push the that isn't my name.
Right.
Don't call me that.
Well, even, yeah, the War Doctor gets angry when
Yes.
someone like Seratrix or somebody calls him the Doctor.
Yes, absolutely.
He gets outraged because that's not who I am anymore.
Right. It's almost
Because he set himself up like the Doctor has to be this noble, larger than life, does the right thing, whereas he doesn't. So he can't possibly be that person. He's betraying that person. So there's
yeah.
that self-loathing going on.
And I had a friend that I knew years ago that was a telemarketer, and she used a different name.
Mm-hmm.
She had an alias,
Right.
not for security reasons or anything. It was when they're hanging up on me, when they're telling me no, when they're being rude to me, it's not to me, it's to Betty Sue or
Right.
whatever the name was.
Right.
So she was playing a character when she cold called. And I think the Doctor has that too. It's like, this isn't the Doctor doing these things.
Mm-hmm.
This is, John Smith or the War Doctor, whatever you want to call it.
Well, there's actually kind of someone in our mutual past
Yes.
that went by another name, then stopped using that name because they didn't want to be that person anymore, and insisted on this new persona.
Yeah.
That whatever happened in there before that, it bothered them so much that it's like, I'm not that person anymore. I'm this new person.
Yeah.
And so, so it does happen
Absolutely.
in real life.
Yeah. And I just think that makes a interesting, well, we're doing a podcast about Doctor Who for
Yes.
that very reasons, right?
Exactly.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. I think let's leave things there. I think we kind of covered it.
Okay.
So let's move on. Ollistra's Monstrous Master Plan. I'm guessing you see the little theme running here.
Yes.
That
And I'm so glad you're getting to read it, because I was very impressed with your agenda.
Yeah.
Just so
Thank
you
you.
know, a little bit of normally our agendas are talk about this, talk about this, talk about
Right.
this, and Charles was very clever. This actually in
right.
all three of
I
these.
just kind of saw a lot of like
Yeah.
themes,
hmm
and and just you had these three characters that kind of they're monstrous, and that's kind of like taking the whole only the
Right.
monstrous box
Absolutely.
set theme into
Mhm.
account. They're monstrous, but in different ways.
Yes.
So Illustra, her monstrous master plan, and what I'm talking about with this is the obviously the whole manipulation that goes on where it comes to Seratrix, to setting him up, like realizing he was a threat to the Time War and taking him out, like
Yes.
kind of orchestrating events, guiding things, like giving him the null zone weapon to give to the Daleks to kind of set this up, and then have the wanting the War Doctor come in and take him out essentially.
And Charles, there is that.
So what do you
If
think?
you're
What do you think of her master plan? I guess is
Yeah,
the question.
if it's the whole simple. If you're not for us, you're against us.
Right,
And she's going. There's no way a peace plan with the Daleks will work.
right,
But if he convinces enough people, it may leave us weak
right.
and may help us cause us to lose this war.
Hmm.
So I'm going to have to manipulate, which is a Time Lord trait.
Oh, yes, it is.
Manipulation, and especially among the council, right?
Exactly.
So it and if you're going to give the premise that trying to make peace with the Daleks is A, impossible,
Right.
and B, dangerous, she does the right thing.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
okay. So that's your
Yeah.
take on it. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because you know, I think I'm not sure how much of this is political and how much of this is for the greater good,
Yeah.
because the Seratrix mentions there is an actual movement on Gallifrey.
Yes.
What he referred to as his brothers and sisters to make it all dramatic.
Right.
But so there was this faction there. So I'm kind of wondering if the High Council, along with Illustra, this was part of, just putting to bed this kind of movement by
I think so.
taking out Seratrix, because I'm sure Seratrix was pretty much the head of it.
Yes.
And so you take out him, you make him this
Yeah.
martyr to the cause. Now the question is, well, will this further their cause because Seratrix is a martyr?
Yeah. And the other thing,
Or does it put them in complete disarray because
mhm,
they're their main guy's been
yeah.
taken off the board?
According to a history professor I had in college, Huey P. Long's plan back in the 20s
Right.
was to be a third party, take enough from the Democrats so that a Republican would get elected. And his belief was the Republican back then would screw things up so much
Right.
that he would be able to, in the long term, get elected president. And so I think their concern right there is, he can't truly get peace, but they could screw things enough that maybe we are going to have a problem,
Right.
So yeah, good
Yeah.
stuff.
And there's a part of her master plan is it was originally taking out Bennis and Arverton and Omega 1, but the doctor inserted himself, like, no, 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 no. I'm feeling a bit suicidal today, so you guys go off ahead.
And
And then
this is,
Lister's kind of pissed off, is like, God damn it. I had this plan and you screwed it up, doctor.
um, I did like the doctor's assessment that it's not a good thing to be one of your best warriors or
Right.
something along like
Yeah.
that. I don't remember the exact quote, but it's
Yeah.
like,
I know what
you know,
I know what you're saying.
it doesn't perv you very well.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little rough on Team Illustra, let's just say.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now she's talking about, like, now she's like, well, I guess now part of it, yeah, she talked about that she wasn't sure what side the doctor was really on.
Yes.
So now he's kind of proven himself to her that he does stand for Gallifrey
Right.
by, essentially doing what she wanted.
Yeah.
So now she's ready to use him again.
Yes.
And, she makes this comment at the end, like, oh, well, where can I find you? And that's where he makes that comment, at the heart of the battle, where the blood of the innocent flows, and only the monstrous survive.
Thank you. That was one of my quotes.
Oh,
I actually had a quote this time,
sorry,
but yes.
I take that
No,
out.
that's okay.
But, so, do you think, it seems like she's going to use him again.
Oh, absolutely. I think she will be back.
I'm
And
kind of wondering if the doctor's going to be taking her down, too. Do you think the doctor sees her as a threat?
yes.
Okay.
And I think he's he's hating himself a fair amount right now. And so I think he is, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Got it.
And he is
Is he
this
kind of
we're
keeping
using
her at arm's length and kind of
Yes.
keeping he's doing the side eye on her, like,
Yeah.
maybe, what's up with you? I'm keeping, like,
Yes.
pointing the fingers at his eyes, going, look,
Absolutely.
I'm watching you, pal.
I totally think that's what it is.
Okay. All right. So, okay. Anything else you think I missed?
No, I
You wanted to
can't.
talk
It
about?
was I thought the ending was really well done.
Right.
Where they go and that planet is now kind of healed.
Yeah.
And we have the monument to
Rejoice.
Yeah. And it was kind of a nice bookend to the young Rejoice, and then the Rejoice being a hero. I liked it a lot. I'm very happy with this, and I think it totally, it fleshed out the War Doctor so well, and if you can get an entertaining story and add depth to a character, you just can't get any better.
Right. Now, a question. Well, now that you brought this up and reminded me, do you think Rejoice is was survived that wound at the hands of Tronus? Because there's a scene, if you recall, where Tronus is going to kill the Doctor, and Rejoice kind of takes the brunt of the attack, gets wounded in the process, and for a while there, the Doctor's not sure if she's alive or dead. And then the Time Lords come and kind of scoop, like like a Silistrus TARDIS must materialize around him.
Yes.
And takes him away before he knows what happens. And the Doctor asks Ollistra later, he goes, well, when they're looking at Rejoice's statue,
Yes.
did she die during that attack? And Ollistra's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I hope she didn't, but you just don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering if there's a chance to bring her back somehow.
I hope so, but yeah, I think, and I thought that was really well done. How I don't know, and it's, and the Doctor does that a lot. So we have that struggle where the ripples that he's been affected or has affected people by, he doesn't necessarily see. So yeah.
Yep. All right. Is there anything else?
No, just okay. I am very, very happy that you picked this one, and I'm glad.
So are you you waiting for more?
Yes, I am. I would now like
you ready for the Infernal Devices, the second War Doctor set? Or you, because I know there's a 10th Doctor set down the road.
Yeah, and I also think the River Song could be interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's before I spoil any more of your quotes, Jesse.
Okay.
What do you have? Do you have any others?
I have one other quote. And I usually, as I explained before, I listen to these in the car, so I don't. But at the end, it was such a powerful moment that I actually, I'm doing text to speech because you're not supposed to text, going at the heart of the battle where the blood of the innocent flows. So I did love the snarkiness of his comment when Ollistra is talking about fighting, we are at a war, and when he says some of us don't feel the need to enjoy it.
Ooh,
And I love that line.
that's a good quote. I didn't get that
Yes.
one. So yeah, that's good.
Hmm.
All right. And that's all you had?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I got a few more.
Okay.
I like the lines where there's a scene where Seratrix, like, you know, he's talking about with the doctor about the decision to go ahead and sacrifice these 1,000 worlds. And he
Hmm.
kind of, and Rejoice interjects. She's like, "Well, I've got something to say about this," and then Seratrix says, "No, you don't have a say in this." And the doctor gets really outraged. He goes, "Yes, she does," or whatever. And he goes, "You're toying with the destruction of her planet, her people. I think it is very much a matter for her to comment on."
Yes. Well done.
So I like that. Let's see what else we got. I like this quote where they're talking about Seratrix's plan earlier in the episode. She goes, the doctor goes, "It would be charming if it wasn't so monumentally stupid.
Yeah.
The Daleks don't do defensive. They don't do peaceful administrations of a nice, cozy empire."
Hmm.
So I like that quote. And then, of course, when the doctor kind of slips this secret schematic of the Daleks on this big screen for everybody to see,
Yes.
and reveals that, oh, guess what? The Daleks are going to aim the planets right at Gallifrey
Right.
after they renovate them and turn them into flying missiles.
Hmm.
That the doctor goes, "I know, it's a bit of a shocker, isn't it? The Daleks want to win the Time War after all?
Yeah.
Who'd have thought it, eh? They want to fire 1,000 planets at 50 times the speed of light right at Gallifrey." So I like that.
That was good.
I like
Really
that.
good.
That was good.
Yeah.
John Hurt snark there.
Yeah.
And then I had one more quote where the War Doctor is being a little snarky with the Prime Dalek, and he goes, "Yes, Prime Dalek, where does this leave the peace negotiations? How does shattering Gallifrey and dispersing it into the maelstrom of temporal chaos fit with the ceasefire plan? Just wondering."
Yeah. Just wondering.
Just wondering.
Great stuff.
Yeah, it was great stuff. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So, okay. What's your rating for this episode?
I'm going to give this 9 memorials out of 10. I just really have loved this. I just is really one of the better stories I've seen in a while. I like it a lot.
Okay. I was going to choose Sculptures of Rejoice, so I'm going to choose something else.
Okay.
So you got me back.
Okay.
I still think the first episode is my favorite of this trilogy, but I like this one a lot.
Hmm.
I give this one 8.5 out of 10 explosive charges.
Nice.
So
Good.
all right. I do have reversed the polarity this time.
Okay.
And for the sake of you, Jesse, because I know you're probably sick of talking about Daleks right now, I'm going to talk about something that isn't a Dalek episode.
Okay.
So we kind of did 2 Dalek stories in the first and second parts. So I'm going to focus on the manipulations of the Time Lords this time.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm going to reverse the polarity back to 1986 with The Ultimate Foe, the 4th serial in season 23, aka The Trial of a Time Lord. So this is Colin Baker's last televised story. And it was written by Robert Holmes and everybody's favorite writing pair, Pip and Jane Baker.
Boy,
Yep.
Ken does not like them.
Yeah,
but
okay. Yeah, unfortunately, Robert Holmes wrote episode 13, the first part of this, and then died, sadly. Wasn't able to finish, so they used his notes, and Pip and Jane Baker finished the story.
Okay.
So yeah, this is also Robert Holmes' last story. Put on trial for genocide by a sinister Time Lord called the Valyard.
Mm-hmm.
The 6th Doctor maintains his innocence as a criminal named Sabalam Glitz acts as a witness, saying this data that he attempted to obtain on the planet Ravalox in the first part of the story called The Mysterious Planet contains secrets stolen by a group called the Sleepers from the Matrix, and the Matrix on Gallifrey. the repository of all-time Lord knowledge. So the High Council traced the sleepers to their base on Earth, and then ended up dragging the planet across time and space to hide the theft and prevent a rescue. And this act of completely relocating the Earth nearly annihilated all life on Earth, which was moved to a location where the Doctor ends up finding this planet called Ravalox in the mysterious planet, and it's under a new name, Ravalox. So basically, they took Earth, shoved it across time and space to this new location, renamed it, and so it's like, oh yeah, Earth. Where's Earth? So realizing he's been framed by the High Council and preventing the truth from emerging, the Doctor is, of course, outraged by this, denouncing the Time Lords as decadent and corrupt in this really great speech. Colin Baker's best speech on Doctor Who, in my opinion.
Yes.
The Master, who just happens to be in the courtroom from inside the Matrix, just to kind of troll the Doctor a little bit, explains that the Valyard is a manifestation of the Doctor's darker side created during his 12th regeneration, which may or may not have happened now.
Right.
And the High Council offer the Valyard the Doctor's remaining regenerations in exchange for falsifying evidence. So you have the High Council colluding with a possible alternate timeline of the Doctor.
Yes.
And so evil stuff. And the High Council in that story ends up getting deposed.
Right.
During a little rebellion. But and I won't get into any more to spoil it. But yeah, check out The Ultimate Foe if you want to see some good scheming going on.
Oh, sounds great. Very nice. Thank you, Charles. Always appreciate it. What are we talking about next time?
I think next time we're going to try and get back on track with televised stories.
Okay.
So if you're not into the Big Finish audios, you probably you might find this a little more up into your liking.
Yes.
We're going to get back on our little schedule, I think. We're going to go back to 1989, the final season of Doctor Who, with The Curse of Fenric, which is generally considered to be Sylvester McCoy's best story.
Ooh, okay.
Of the 12. So I'm kind of curious what you think about it.
Okay.
And so if it's okay with you, we'll go ahead and review that next time here in a couple weeks, I guess.
That sounds great.
So yeah, it's a really cool story, and you kind of get a good taste of the Seventh Doctor's manipulative side.
Okay.
So
nice. Very good. Charles, where can people find you?
They can find me on the interwebs at Charles Skaggs on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, of course. Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. Shout out to Karen. And my blog of geeky things, Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about lots of things like Doctor Who, Next Stop Everywhere, and all kinds of geeky news stuff. So I hope you check it out.
Good. And I can be found.
Yeah.
Oh, I can be found at Jesse Jackson DFW.
Right.
And I am on
that's on
Castle with.
It's on the Twitter, right?
Yes, it is on the Twitter. I am on Facebook, Jesse Jackson in Louisville, Texas. Karen, your Fandom Zone partner, and I do a Castle podcast along with Kathy and Janice.
Right. And
then, of course, Set Listing Bruce, where I am obsessed with all things Springsteen.
Yeah. You?
Now
you're trying to get some support for Set Listing Bruce, as I recall.
Yes, I am. There is an awards ceremony that is a People's Choice Awards, and they so I and I'm certainly not opposed to you and I trying to get Next Stop Everywhere on there as well. But so I have registered Set Listing Bruce to be eligible to be nominated. And so what I need to do is now have different listeners and friends go to that, and we'll have a link in our show notes. I've tweeted it, that tell you where to go to nominate me, and then there'll be a period where you can go vote. So
right now, this is going to be for like best music podcast, I'm guessing.
Yes, it is for a best music podcast. It's kind of the People's Choice Awards of podcasting. And so, just trying to do a little bit of something.
And hey, if you want to vote Next Stop Everywhere for best sci-fi podcast or
Absolutely.
best TV podcast or what have you, or most awesomest in the nation podcast,
Yes.
that would be great.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't turn that down.
No, it wouldn't. So that's it. Charles, thank you. I look forward to watching Sylvester McCoy and getting back to visuals. Who?
Yep.
Though we will have to go back to Big Finish.
There are no Daleks in the story, so
that's okay.
You're good
that's
there.
All right.
Yes. But before I forget, I want to mention that you can reach us at Next Stop SMG on Twitter, and of course Next Stop Everywhere on Facebook. Please give us some likes. I think we're at 137 or something like that, but we can always take more. We'll be more than happy to. Always great to have that number higher. And then if you're on iTunes, we'd love to get some reviews on iTunes. Those are always great. And then any other, anything else that I'm forgetting?
No, we do have our Next Stop Everywhere shirts available for sale.
Right.
Not only are they a cool T-shirt, but it helps fund the podcast. Charles and I don't get any taste, but
what's up with that?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it does cost money to put out the podcast, especially for bandwidth and such. So this helps cover the expenses.
Right. So if you want to support the show, help get one of the official Next Stop Everywhere T-shirts.
Absolutely.
Now, if you're not sure how to do that, you can go to our Facebook page. We've got a pinned post at the top so that you can. It's a link to click on to get the shirt, or you can go to Damn Good Coffee, and in every one of my Next Stop Everywhere posts, I put a link for our T-shirt. So,
absolutely.
So help support the show and get yourself a cool Next Stop Everywhere T-shirt to wear at those next Doctor Who conventions. And
send us a picture of you wearing it.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah, post it on the Facebook, or send
it, especially if you happen to get a picture with, say, David Tennant or like Karen Gillan or something, something of that nature, or just a picture of you wearing it is cool too.
Absolutely.
If you're just by yourself, send us pictures and we'll post them on our Facebook page.
So thank you, Charles. It's a joy as always. We're going to scoot on, but we're going to end with Keep Hope Alive and say, tonight I'll be on that hill because I can't stop. I'll be on that hill with everything I've got. Well, lives are on the line where dreams are found and lost. I'll be there on time and I'll pay the cost for waiting things that can only be found in the darkness on the edge of town. In the darkness on the edge of town.
Now, what Doctor Who episode is that from?
It is from a very little-known Bruce Springsteen Doctor Who crossover.
Oh, okay, got it.
I thought the lyrics were pretty appropriate for the show this time.
I think so.
Yes, so I don't do this often.
Well done.
All right, thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone. Bye.